You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.
That is Jim Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, I see that Eric Girard has risen in the National Assembly.
He's just rising now.
So we will have some details on that coming up in just a couple of minutes on the budget. Today is budget day. But let's start with, I love the way you wrote this, Jim. Trudeau's handling the interference file the way a squirrel handles crossing a highway. Please explain.
Well, anyone who has ever seen, I really should have said a busy highway. Anyone who's ever seen a squirrel try to cross a road, much less a highway, realizes that, how can I put it, he or she doesn't really have a game plan. They'll go out, think about it, go back inside, zipping around, maybe get 2/3 of the way across the street. No, this is a bad idea. I'm going back to the side. Anyway, long story short, after spending 2 weeks, basically filibustering the Liberals on this special committee that is supposed to be, looking into, allegations of interference in our electoral process, because the committee wanted to hear from Katie Telford, who's Trudeau's chief of staff. And it was clear they did not, the PMO did not want this to happen. And what happens? Presto changeo, out of the blue, suddenly today, Madame Telford will be speaking to the committee, which poses the question, why all the dog and pony show for the past 2 weeks? And also, if they're clearly spinning this thing, she's going to say what she can say in public, because a lot of this stuff is classified. What was the big deal? Why? And this is what I've been talking about now for the past 2 weeks. Why does Trudeau make everything more difficult on this? I cannot for the life of me understand it. They wanted to hear from Telford, just send her in, but say, listen, there's only so much that she can say. And if it's said behind closed doors, then clearly it's especially if it's national security. Clearly, it is going to be subject to a lot of security and a lot of, insurances. This stuff won't be leaked, especially in the context where it would appear that there's a leaker inside of CSIS who seems to have the Globe and Mail on speed dial and keeps throwing them stuff. The latest being, a self-explanatory letter published this past weekend saying enough is enough. I couldn't be quiet. Well, I guess whatever you're setting out to do, you've certainly done it, but the biggest assist that this controversy is getting, once again, is from Justin Trudeau. Why this turnaround? I have no idea. But another example of taking a situation where a lot of people would like to see you fail and almost like going to the trouble of sitting down and tying your shoelaces together to make sure that down the road you will fall. Once again, it just beggars belief here, guys, that Justin Trudeau, who and all these rumors and the innuendo and it gets swirling into this idea. Well, maybe there'll be an election, maybe there won't be an election. It is becoming increasingly confusing. And as I've warned in the past, it's not about the confusion. It's about the disillusionment. It's about people zoning out. It's about people saying, you know what, I don't believe in any of this, which is really bad when you're talking about a fundamental democracy in this country.
Does this reflect the fact that Katie Telford is now going to testify? Is this a win for the opposition that he was pushed into this finally?
The short answer could be yes, but listen, Justin Trudeau doesn't have the monopoly on walking onto rakes, because they don't know what Katie Telford is going to. They may think they know, but They don't know what Katie Telford is actually going to say or what she can say. And, you look at the polls, and it's clearly been eating away at Trudeau's popularity, even in very important jurisdictions such as Ontario and Quebec. But the fact is, this could just as easily blow up in the faces of the people who are saying, this is a corrupt prime minister. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a much bigger scandal, and they're routinely referring to it as a scandal now. There have been scandals before. And Justin Trudeau is still prime minister, and he keeps winning elections, although with smaller margins of victory in minority governments. But I hate to put it this way. I look at this entire story. I look at both sides of the story, and it's like you go into like the chimpanzee cage at the zoo, and you say, here's a bag of revolvers. What could possibly go wrong?
No.
I can't help but just think to myself that if they had gotten ahead of this story out of the gate and just immediately said, she'll testify, we're going to do an inquiry, we wouldn't still be talking about it.
Exactly. And one of the ways that you in my experience, that governments can make things go away is to not just provide information. I mean, vomit up oceans of information, because when you get all kinds of details, even the newsrooms that were screaming for blood suddenly look at pages and stacks of information, and they go, well, no, we can't do this in 30 seconds. Slap it up and get some clicks. This is way too complicated. And all of a sudden, the steam goes out of the story. Not that, as far as I can tell, there's that much meat behind this story, and if there is, it's being very well hidden. But we're sort of sitting here once again, sort of like thinking, how could you not have done this? I mean, this is PR 101. This is politics 101. Get ahead of the story. Give everybody more than they want. And believe me, this being the 21st century, attention spans being what they are, they'll move on to the next shiny thing. This has not been happening, and the sole reason this has not been happening has been the way Justin Trudeau has been handling this.
Okay, let's move on from that and talk about something else. I was going to do a list today to start the show, Jim, of latest things to be really upset about in terms of governments. One of them happens to be, I guess, the fact that, I don't know if you saw the story, 24 Sussex Drive, the utility bill there is $8,000 a month. No one's been living there for 2 years. It's still costing Canadian taxpayers that to keep Pierre Trudeau's pool heated. Then there was the bonus money paid out to Fed workers who didn't even accomplish their, necessarily their, what do we call that? Their whatever for the year, their limits or their plans for the year. And now, and this comes as the least surprising thing, the fact that the LaFontaine Tunnel is going to cost just a small bit more than originally bargained for. It's about $970 million on top of what it's already costing.
Oh, let's make it an even billion.
Yeah,
okay?
billion is good, sure.
Come on. Here's what's crazy. First of all, I mean, you're mentioning these two other examples, which in fact, I'm not sure $1 billion is in play here with those first two. It's amazing that, first of all, in August of, I think, last year, then Transport Minister, it was Bonardel, I think, was the Transport Minister. He goes, listen, guys, we're going to have to rethink the costs, because it was $1.4 billion, which, okay, it's a big tunnel. It hasn't been touched. We're going to have to rethink it. It's going to be another $900 million. And it's, basic math tells you, hey, that's almost double the price. Okay. Well, we didn't realize the extent of the deterioration of the tunnel. And I'm thinking, don't you usually send people in first to figure out what needs to be done before you start handing out contracts to get it fixed? I mean, don't you do a bit of research? You close roads in Quebec at the drop of a hat. But no. And so right there, it's $900 million more. And that seems to be part of the regular data flow. I don't know. Maybe we're all recovering from the pandemic. But Monday night, in an act of raw political courage, Quebec Transport Ministry puts out a very brief communique saying, oh, yes, finally it's going to be $970 million. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe when we're in billions, we shouldn't be talking about it. But you said it's going to go up by $900 million a year ago, and now you're saying, oh, yeah, and there's another $70 million that's got to go in there as well. I mean, is it going to be a gold-plated tunnel? Is it going to have
I hope so.
TVs that you can watch?
Sure,
yes.
And a bar.
This sounds awesome.
It's nuts. And as we speak, the finance minister is talking about, fiscal responsibility, whatever. How did it happen in Quebec? I mean, are we that punch drunk that when a $1 billion project becomes a $2 billion project, there's barely a peep out of the opposition? The old torch and pitchfork stores are going broke because nobody's picking them up anymore. And it seems that whether it's this government or any other government in Quebec just gets away with this stuff time after time. I mean, we're talking about public inquiries. Damn it, I'd like to know why a $1.4 billion project in the space of 2 years went to a $2.5 billion project. I think that's a fair question.
Yeah.
For everyone who's shaking their fists over, doing right by Quebec taxpayers, it's not going to happen.
By the way, that's $970 billion today. Tomorrow, in a week, this is not over, Jim. Right? It's not over until the final
like I always
screw
say, they
is
always
in.
get you on the shipping and the handling.
Yeah, all right. That's where they get you. James Mennie over to Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adam, man.